What do you suppose the father's going to do when this wastrel son, when this prodigal son comes up? See, what we would think is, well, he ought to get what's coming to him. He ought to said, well, I'll tell you what, you have wasted what I gave you, and you're just getting what you deserve, and so you just go, you can take the lowest job, and you can sleep in the shed. You can sleep in the doghouse. Go, find a bed out of some bramble bushes. That's how we would think. But this is not the father that Jesus portrays to us, verse 20. And he arose, and he came to his father. But when he was yet a great way off, the father saw him. This is so beautiful. He's coming to the father, but the father is looking for him. The father's not indifferent to him. When he was a great way off, the father saw him. He sees those that are a great way off. And he had compassion. And he ran. That's not the son now. This is the father. The father ran. Jesus is giving us an image of God the Father seeing people that have, again, these are people who have wasted what they had and done the wrong thing, like the sinners we read about earlier who came to Jesus. The father had compassion, ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. Jesus is telling us this to show us this is the attitude. This is the heart of God. He ran on and fell on his neck and kissed him. And the son, remember, he has a speech prepared. He's going to say, Father, I've sinned against heaven and before thee. I'm no more worthy to be called thy son. Make me as one of thy hired servants. And the son said to him, Father, listen, he's starting his speech. I have sinned against heaven and in thy sight. I'm no more worthy to be called thy son. He's getting ready to say, now make me one of thy hired servants. Verse 22, but the father said, he interrupted him. It almost gives you the impression, verse 22, that the father didn't even care to hear that. Right? He didn't even let him finish. The father didn't let him finish this prayer, let me make me one of your servants. He interrupted him. He interrupted this prayer as though he didn't even care to hear it. Didn't even want to hear about it. He said, verse 22, the father said to his servants, bring forth the best robe. Not the worst one, the best one. Bring forth the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet. And bring hither the fatted calf and kill it. And let us eat and be merry. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And they began to be merry. Now what does this show us? First of all, it's a beautiful story and all, but what does it show us about the heart of the Father? His heart is a heart of compassion. Even on those who have wasted what they have. Even those who sinned against Him. Even on those who have done everything wrong. He's looking. See, he saw him afar. He saw him along. It means he was looking for him. And where did this fatted calf come from? Where did the fatted calf come from? You know what calf means? They've set it aside, got it fat. Like you're going to, we know what that means. You know where the fatted calf came from? When that son left the house, the father said, take a calf and put it away. And we're going to fatten him up because that son of mine's coming back. How about that? That's the heart of the Father. We are so short-sighted sometimes, and we sell ourselves and everybody else short. We need to get this view, especially of God. First of all, we need to get this view of God concerning our own relationship with Him. Why is Jesus telling this? He wants us to see God this way. Compassion on us. Not strict and austere and got a ruler in his hand or a switch. To switch our backsides. Not like that at all. He deserved, listen, do you see this son deserved to get a whipping, didn't he? Right? Did he? He deserved it. He had it coming. He deserved punishment. But instead of punishment, the father brought the best robe and put it on him. And he brought a ring and put it on his hand. A ring symbolizes authority. And it symbolizes authority in relation to the father. The servants are going to serve him now because he's got the ring on his hand. Put shoes on his feet. And he said, not only that, kill the fatted calf and let's have a party. Now this is getting pretty wild now when you start talking about God wants to have a party. Listen, I think God is not some strict, dour, sour, sour-faced tyrant. I think He wants us to have fun in our lives. I think God's got better parties than anybody in the world ever dreamed of. But you know who doesn't like this? I hope you're liking this. I hope you like this view of God. I do. Let us be merry. You know who doesn't like this? The Pharisees and the people like that. The elder son represents the Pharisees. The people who think they're so holy, they're more holy than God Himself, I guess. Verse 25, the elder son. Remember, that represents the Pharisees, the self-righteous people. The elder son was in the field. And he came and drew near to the house, and he heard music and dancing. Now remember, where did this music and dancing, well, I shouldn't even bring this up. When I first When I first met April, my wife, when I first met her, and I'm not going to mention any names of any churches, but different churches. There's a reason why there's different churches, because they believe different things, and usually they have the reason what's different about them is they have a set of rules what distinguish us from everybody else, because we're more holy than them. And her group, who she was a part of, one of the things that distinguished them from everybody else is we don't permit dancing. Well, okay, fine. But notice here in this story about the Father's house and what's going on in the celebration of the Son that came back, notice there's music and dancing. Did you see that? I think he had some pretty good music. But I think what it shows about the heart of the Father is that he is interested in good things. Do you get that impression? So the elder son came and he drew near to the house and he heard music and dancing. And he called one of the servants and asked them what these things meant. I could just see it. What does all this mean? What is this music? What is this dancing? What does this mean? I can just see he's more holy than the Father himself, isn't he? What does this mean? Verse 27. And he said, Thy brother is come, and thy father hath killed the fatted calf, because he hath received him safe and sound. Now you would think anybody with an ounce of compassion, anybody with an ounce of care would be touched by that and say, oh, he's back. I'm so glad. That's not what he said. He's so holy, he can't allow himself to have that kind of compassion. Look at what he said, verse 28. Now remember, the son has come back safe and sound. What's his reaction? He was angry. We can't afford to allow ourselves to be on this side of things. He was angry. He would not go in. He's mad. Why is he mad? Because this son went and wasted what he had. He would not go in. Therefore, the Father came out. Listen to that. You know what Jesus is showing us here about the heart of... He's showing us what God is like. God, the Father in the story, he didn't just stay in the house and say, oh, well, if he won't come in, just let him stay out there. He went out to him and entreated him. That means he begged him. He went to him and entreated him and begged him. And he answered and said, Father, this is the son. Lo, I can just hear it. Lo, these many years do I serve thee. I can just hear that. All these years have I served you. Neither transgressed I at any time thy commandment. I can just hear it, and they're probably beginning to cry now. And thou never gavest me a kid that I might make merry with my friends. He should be happy, that his brother has come back. But he's this sour, dour, unhappy, self-centered, too holy for words person. Verse 30. But as soon as this thy son, notice what he called him. He doesn't even consider him that he's related to him. As soon as this thy son was come, which hath devoured thy living with harlots. This is the first time I've read, by the way, about harlots in this story. Where did that come from? Well, evidently in the mind of this son who's... this is so psychologically interesting. The son who stayed behind and who worked and who never transgressed at any time thy commandments. I tell you what, in his mind, he was going over it all. You know why he's so mad? Because he wished he had done what the son did. Did you know that? This is very insightful. Maybe this is still too real, but that's the truth. He hath devoured thy living with harlots, and you... Listen, he's passing judgment on the Father, and you killed the fatted calf. They're passing judgment. It's like the Pharisees are passing judgment on God himself. You killed the fatted calf. And here's the answers. He said, Son, thou art ever with me. All that I have is thine. It was proper. It was meet. That means appropriate. It was proper that we should make merry. God, that's his attitude about it. It's good that we should be merry and be glad. For this thy brother was dead and is alive again, and he was lost and is found. Now, what's the Father all about in this story? Is he all about punishing everybody and giving everybody what they deserve? Or is he about receiving everybody back and receiving everyone that comes to him? And let's all get happy and have a party. That's the impression I get of God here. Let's all just come together and let's all, Well, it's a different view of God. But see, why is Jesus telling us this? He says, I want to reveal... What do we read in this prayer? I have manifested thy name to them. I have revealed your name. What was the name that he used when he talked about God? He called him Father. When you pray, say our Father. And every time he talks about him, he says, Father, Father, Father. And then now he's showing us what is a father like in relationship to those who are his children. Well, he wants them to have a good time. He wants them to be happy. He's even throwing parties. That sounds pretty good to me. I'm all for this thought. Okay, let's all stand up today. And by the way, happy Father's Day.
Jesus!